Hey everyone, my name is Fabian Rodriguez and welcome to Bitcoin Book Club on HODLcast. Today we are discussing the Book of Satoshi by Phil Champagne, chapters 1 through 24. This series is going to be broken down into three parts, chapters 1 through 24, 25 through 50, and I believe 50 through 74. Chapters are shorter in length, and there's lots to discuss, but still able to be specific and go in depth on many things. This book is about Satoshi and his various correspondences with people early on in the Bitcoin protocol and at its release. And it's very crazy to see what he discusses either being played out or coming to fruition. So that is what we'll discuss today. Lots of good things. If you're interested in your own book club, or if you want to curate your own book club, I'll provide the slides and materials in this discussion on the link below and feel free to use that information for your own use. All right, guys, enjoy, and we'll see you next week for parts 25 through 50. I'm currently in Ho Chi Minh, Vietnam.
Wow,
Yeah.
What's it like over there?
Can you be more specific? It's great. I guess the main word is great. It's really good. But I mean, yeah. If you have something.
How's the weather?
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
How's the weather, and how is the adoption of cryptocurrencies in the country?
So the weather it's either dry season or rainy season, but like there will be times where I'll forget what the month is because of the lack of seasons is just, I don't always forget the month, but sometimes I like it hits me sometimes that like there'll be a millisecond I'll be like, oh yeah, what season is? No, but weather's good. It's hot. It's hot all year round, but if you're indoors and you got AC, or if you're on your motorbike, or if you're in a car, it's manageable with how things are, but it is hot. I don't know, maybe I'm trying to be masculine about it and cover it up a little bit. Cryptocurrency, it's not bad. It's well.
Are you educating people? Is that why you're there?
Yeah, so I'm an English teacher out here and a teacher trainer. Yeah. So hey Jack. Hey
guys, how you doing?
Will.
Jack.
Yeah. Cryptocurrency is big out here. A lot of Vietnamese are into FX trading and forex trading, so they're really into cryptocurrency trading, but in terms of like Bitcoin as an investment, that's not taken off as much. The people that do have money to invest, they're into real estate. So that's the name of the game out here. Yeah. So, hey Amiyu, how you doing?
Good, how are you?
We're doing okay. Awesome.
Lots of new faces this time.
A few people, yeah. So can everyone go around and kind of just introduce yourself briefly? Who's iPhone? Is iPhone there?
Maybe it's Satoshi.
Yeah, right. See what's going on. Phil, is it you?
Yeah, look, I'm back anyway. I'm based in Ireland, so obviously we all met through Pump's course. And yeah, what am I missing in the intro there?
Nothing much. Max was here the first time around. He's coming back. Will, good to have you back. Ellen's from Colorado. What cohort are you from, Ellen?
I'm cohort 5.
Okay.
And yeah, the OG cohort.
All right.
I mean, what do you call it? Best of all, goat cohort.
Can you name two stereotypical Coloradian things and do you
Yeah, no, I'm just such a student and such an advocate and working on creating educational programs here. And if you want to check out a little more about what I'm trying to do, I have a little website called Block Asset Mentors. You can remember it like a Marvel comic book, like BAM, Block Asset Mentors. And our goal is to have a decentralized organization where we educate. First about Bitcoin, and then we may expand out beyond that. But our goal is to just create the most, like what Pump's doing, but more for people that aren't as into it as we are. Like in Pump's class, we get deep. And there's some people who just want to know how to get just started. So we'll take it out to that level.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Can you put your website
I'm so glad to meet you guys.
Can you put the website into the chat box? I think that would be awesome to see. I'm very interested. Definitely hit you up after this about that.
Well, like my idea is that people all over the world would create content and put it into like a Wikipedia centralized area, and then anybody could use it. And we would we're creating a group of like 11 quality control people who will just make sure that the content is up to par, if that makes sense.
Curating aggregate of Bitcoin educational resources?
Yeah, I mean, there's so much out there. This is just another one. Okay. Anyway, I don't want to take up any more time because I'm totally wanting to hear
not at all.
the book of Satoshi. Did that come through on the chat?
Yeah, very good.
Awesome.
Okay.
Cool. Can everyone see the slide?
Yes.
Awesome.
Love it.
Okay, let's get started, guys. Very cool. Did everyone get to do the reading? And if you didn't, that's okay. I know Amiyu. You can lie too, I guess. That's a bad question to ask.
I didn't do the reading, so I'll listen in for the most part.
No worries.
Unless I have something to say.
Awesome. So I guess, thoughts prior to the reading. Where did you guys hear about this? And what did you expect prior to reading the first few chapters? And how did you think Satoshi would be like, right? Because we are reading what he's saying. We're seeing him, right? So just a couple icebreaker kind of intro questions. What are you guys' thoughts?
I'm gonna try. I will always talk. So you guys have to beat me to the punch. If you leave too much silence, I will jump in. I just have, I think it depends on how much you've studied and listened to people and looked up people like Hal Finney and Gavin Wood. And it's kind of what I expected. He just sounds so real. He sounds human. He sounds, I wish I knew more about cryptography, but he still sounds so grounded in just common sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he just comes across kind of as a normal guy, which I think a lot of people tend to forget that he's not this like figure that is often banded about on Bitcoin Twitter and all those kind of places.
But he's still invisible, like anonymous.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was just so. I mean, it's like all on the Twitter, like the Twitter books you need to read, right? Book of Satoshi's like, it's on there, right? But how many people actually read it? I don't know. How many people actually read those books on the list? I don't know. Yeah.
I try to. I've read a lot of them, but have I integrated them into my brain? That's a harder thing.
You know what? But that's compounding, right? We don't absorb 100% of a book. We might get like 5, right? And then it's just that builds over time. Yeah. All right, everyone got your books? Take your books out. Cool. Awesome. So the first thing that
maybe you're a good leader.
Doing this for a few months now. I don't know. It's starting to click a little bit. So the forward was pretty interesting. I think, Phil mentioned how it's kind of shrouded in mystery, and it's so funny that he says that, because Bitcoin is all about transparency, open ledger, everything is transparent, and so is what Satoshi has done. So I thought that was pretty interesting in the forward. And it was written by this guy called Jeff Berwick. Does anyone know who this guy is, or familiar with him, or no?
Yeah, I know him.
I watched a YouTube clip of him on like his YouTube show, but I don't know. I don't feel comfortable saying really what he's about. Jack, do you have anything?
He's fairly out there. Yeah. Well, he used to have a big YouTube channel years ago, kind of. He was a lot of talking about like the central bank stuff before it was cool, but he got banned off YouTube. So I don't know. He's very popular in kind of the anarchist world. Yeah, he actually has this huge. I think he runs this huge conference in Mexico called like Anarchapulco or something like that. It's in Acapulco. I think that's what it's called. I don't know Mexico at all, but he's the guy that runs that, I think. So yeah, he's quite well known.
Okay, so he's in that kind of realm. I'd be curious to ask Phil how he got in contact with him, or why he thought he was the most appropriate person to write the forward to this. I thought it was a good forward. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, it was good, yeah.
Yeah.
It was written 2014, was it? Like this book is about,
7 years old, 6 years old, 7. And then he really didn't start writing it until 2012, 2013, probably, right? So,
God, even that was so early. Like,
I was thinking that too. And throughout the first 20 chapters, I was thinking wow, a lot of and we'll get to that, right? But I was thinking, he's calling it out here step by step, and we're seeing it play out here. I wrote that. Started in 2012. And everyone talks about the Genesis block and what was special, what was in the Genesis block. I guess I'll ask Max, what was in there? And
well, I don't know if it was this exact title of this article, but basically referencing the 28 financial crisis, basically as the beginning of this new blockchain and system. And even looking at it back now, it's kind of not ironic, but just so intriguing to see how long it kind of took for all this to really take ground and build up what the network and the system is now. And even now we're relatively early, right? But just kind of seeing how it's been influenced by a lot of this central banking and all the chaos that created, especially in 2008.
Did anyone read the article, the actual article? I posted it on the channel. Pretty short.
I did not know.
I'll go look for it, Fabian. I didn't see it.
Oh, no worries. It's on there. It's just curious. Will, what did you think of it? I mean, it was just like I don't know.
It's I'll just add in that obviously most people gravitate to the idea of a criticism of central banking in the Genesis block, but another reason he could have put that title in is just as a proof of time. Something Pomp covered of a hostage situation, of prove that your hostage is alive. Hold up the New York Times, or in this case, I guess the Times is England or something. So hold that up in front of your face to prove that you were at least alive on January 9th, 2009, right? So it could it might not have to do with central banking. It might just be proving that he didn't start this Genesis block any earlier, because there's no way he could have anticipated that exact headline on that exact day.
A way to timestamp. Yeah. Yeah. I just think it, I think it was intentional, right? Reading what we've, he's talking about decentralization and how, banks and everything is centralized later on, which I didn't think you would hit on, but he did. And yeah, so, and then, I didn't realize, we see the Twitter and we see, like, when we hear Bitcoin, we see this guy. This is Dorian Nakamoto, right? He's a meme in the Bitcoin Twitter space. I don't know, I feel bad for the guy, kind of.
Oh, he's the guy. That's that really funny meme that comes out every time Bitcoin goes up.
I think it's Bitcoin Archive.
CEO raises prices.
yeah, the same minute. I didn't know that was him then. It's like, as well, yeah, it's like, it's so relevant. It just keeps happening. So the meme's never going to die. Like, so,
I thought it was very. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting to see how conservative and worried Satoshi seemed. Yeah. Compared to probably some of the other cypherpunks who are more rebellious. I think one of the final emails is like someone saying, "Bring it on, bring everyone on." And Satoshi saying, "No, we don't need that kind of controversy. I want to get out of here." So it's interesting to see his personality clash against a lot of the other people who are quite rebellious.
I also felt he was so really quite humble about, I don't even know if this is going to work, but if it takes off, this would be great. I felt that there was a little bit of that in his communication.
I think it was very interesting that Phil postulated that could have been the reason for his retirement, when he started seeing, like, this guy get harassed in WikiLeaks. Oh, the WikiLeaks part, and he was saying that is not how he intended it to start off, right? It really went off with the bang, and him thinking that was his reason for retirement. I thought that was interesting, how that could have been coincidental. I lost my train of thought there, guys. I'm sorry. So, go ahead, Jack.
yeah, I just want to say what I found very interesting about the book as well is just searching, like, all the different people, the early guys, like, I think Gavin Andreessen, or is it Gavin Anderson? Andreessen, I think, like, just looking them up and, like, what they have to say and what they're doing now and stuff. Because a lot of the original guys aren't, I just know, I looked up some of them, and some of them aren't so involved with Bitcoin anymore. They're kind of more involved with other projects. Some are just Bitcoin, and some just don't do any, like, they're probably absolutely minted. So they probably don't. Some of them just are retired, I'd say.
Chapter 2 is interesting because here he's talking about implications, and he's talking about remittances, and then I thought about strike, and then he's talking about credit card disruption, and then we always see the traits of a hard money, right? Qualities of a hard money, and we always see medium of exchange, unit of account, fungibility, divisibility, and this was written in 2014. And it's great to see how all of this was talked about since in the inception, right? And not later on. I thought that was very, I don't know, it spoke a lot about where this is coming from.
Hmm.
I mean, here he's talking exactly about Strike's business plan, converting national currencies to BTC and then back into national currencies, right? That's exactly what Strike is doing with El Salvador. And here is Satoshi talking about it early on. So,
I mean, his vision was so tight and concise.
I think this was totally pre-Lightning as well, wasn't it?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so obviously, yeah. Sorry.
And how, you know, how you said he was speaking so concise and tight. I was thinking, if I came up with this, I'd be yelling it to the world, you know? I'd be like, guys, what's going on, guys? What's up? like, check this out.
Yeah,
And
he
he's
was so not like that.
yeah, he's like, I have this new thing that I want to tell you about. It's peer-to-peer, you know, like so monotone and academic, you know, and I'm like trying to shout it to the neighbor. So,
And he was almost not sure that that was going to happen. Like the people were going to pick it up and run with it. He was just like, and what do you guys, did any of you guys, what did you think of Hal Finney? I mean, to me, Hal Finney is like kind of an angel person. Because a lot of those emails came from, maybe we'll get to that later.
yeah, no, but I mean, don't let that stop you. I'm just putting that up here right now to show a picture of him, but go ahead. Yeah. Continue
Man,
on.
you're just doing a great job of leading and preparing it. This is awesome, Fabian.
Continue. Thank you. Continue your thought, though. Keep on going.
I just wonder if he could have been Satoshi. You know, he's just sort of started to go out when Satoshi went out. I mean, he's the one person, if there was ever a human being, that I think maybe have been that person, except that he and Satoshi communicated, so he wasn't that person.
Yeah. Will, what do you think? What are your thoughts? If you have anyone in mind?
Me?
Oh, Will.
Absolutely no idea.
No, I didn't know what to think going in, and really running away when the CIA got involved left a big impression on me. Because a lot of the libertarians aren't afraid of any CIA. They say, come get me. And my hypothesis after reading the book is that he was a contractor or working for an intelligence agency after this. And so that's why he was worried about WikiLeaks and CIA, because he could lose everything essentially for working on this as a side project. So that's kind of where I ended up at the end of this book.
It's an interesting thesis, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't finished the book yet, but does he give any thoughts himself, the author, on who he thinks?
Yeah, is there a section on? I only read to chapter 24. William, does he have any thoughts or?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
The most interesting.
Go ahead, Jack.
Sorry, but you know, I was just going to say the most interesting thing I heard before was that all the emails made in UK English, supposedly, and the white paper. So it means he's probably not like American or even like, you know, I don't know, Japanese or something. Which is interesting. And the only guy that's prominent at the early days would be Adam Back. She's the founder of Blockstream, you know, like they're massive still. That's an interesting one I heard. To be honest, I don't know a whole lot about it, so I have more insight when we're finished the book.
Well, so yeah, he starts going into it. Chapter 4 was about scaling, and he talks about, I think the issue was bandwidth, and I mean, already he's talking about how two HD DVDs, it's going to be nothing via file transfer, right? And he was totally right, right? Like he was following Moore's law and Wright's law, you know, in his line of thinking, right? It's not like we need to say it's Moore's law. It was just like, no, this is what's going to happen. And then he talked about server farms and specialized hardware. Like he knew, I mean, I guess thinking big, right? You need that power, right? But you know, starting off is like, hey guys, everyone run this on your computer. I think that's amazing. And then that made me think about a little bit about what the history of the miners are, right? When did Bitmain and when did WhatsMiner start setting up? That's something I want to look into. Does anyone know anything about mining history? I mean, where do these hardware miners come from? Or where do they get their start, right? I mean, that's a big endeavor. Maybe they're a sub company of a bigger company, right? But I think Bitmain just makes ASICs. I don't know. Do you guys know anything?
Yeah, I think they just make ASICs.
Yeah.
I've always wondered, well, I suppose it's very specialized, but I wonder why there isn't more companies. Like, why don't like NVIDIA and Intel and all them start doing it? Like, they must have those kind of resources. Especially, I think actually NVIDIA and AMD do make specialized mining equipment now, just not for Bitcoin yet. So maybe it's down the road, but it's a bit, I suppose, off topic.
I mean, they make GPUs, and I know GPUs are hard to get, and because Ethereum and everyone is getting, like, they're buying up GPUs, so the price of GPUs are really high. And you know about this, Jack. Maybe you can even talk about this from your Ethereum mining days, but you have the chip shortage plus the miners are paying a premium for them. Right, those prices are crazy right now.
Yeah, I don't think they're making any new ones at the moment because the whole resale thing out of China, like it's crazy. I was looking at getting a few miners back just over a year ago, and it was like, I think it was like $2,500 for getting them then. And I didn't get them in the finish, but if I bought it, these were like the top spec Bitmain ones. If I did buy them and didn't even mine with them, just have them sitting there, they were worth like $12,000 a year later because of the shortage. So, God, if you were mining Bitcoin as well, like it'd be some investment. But yeah.
And me and Max were just talking about this prior to starting. Max, what's your bottleneck? Is it the electricity prices? Is it getting the miner? What's kind of holding you, or various things that are holding you back?
Most likely just the electricity prices. I haven't looked into it too much yet, but I just know that they are like relatively high here in general where I'm at.
Yeah.
Max, have you been watching the work from the guys from Cohort 5 who bought all these miners from China and are refurbishing them in Florida? Do you know?
No, I haven't.
I'll try and put it in the chat. It's at ABBA. They're really having fun. They're having so much fun down there, and they're I might have to wait until after this to send you the names, but I'll try and send you the
no
names.
worries.
I think
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Paul Morris is one of them.
Yeah, Paul Morris is one. So if you just hook up with him, Paul Morris, and the guy's last name's with an A, and they're just working for, and Tim, well, never mind. Tim, what's his name from Cohort 5 too, is down there. There's just a bunch of people going down there, and I think they're all learning a lot because they're all together and they're actually working on stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome.
They
Check it
need
out.
more people. So you could just go down and help them for a little bit and find out where to get what you need.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Very cool. So yeah, I mean, he was talking about this, you know, from the onset of specialized hardware, which I thought was crazy. And then Phil started talking about the 51% attack very early on. Will, I'm not sure if he touches on this in later on in the book, but this was chapter 5. And I was like, okay, wow, he's gonna, start heavy with this, which was really good. And I think it was really interesting. One of the quotes that he said was, I really didn't make that statement as strong as I could have. And in my mind, I'm like, yeah, like it would have been very helpful. But even thinking about that, like, would that even stop the FUD? Even if Satoshi made an extra section in the white paper on 51% attack, would that even stop people complaining and not complaining, what am I trying to say?
Just FUD. Would they stop
FUD, right? Yeah, yeah.
Fear, being afraid of what could possibly happen. What's the risk factor here?
Yeah.
I mean, people just do that. People really want to avoid risk.
I think one thing that's changed is it used to be one CPU, one vote. And then I forget who it was, but it was the guy who bought the pizzas for the 10,000 Bitcoin, who was mining, one of the first miners with a GPU. So that's how he had 10,000 Bitcoin to give away for the pizza, essentially, right? And then when it got valuable enough, I guess they started minting the ASICs. So I don't think Satoshi really anticipated specialized hardware. He was obviously very technical, but I don't know if he really saw that in his vision, that essentially miners wouldn't be. He does say something in the book about what happens when a mere mortal can no longer mine a block. So he does anticipate like an average person not being able to become a miner. So I don't know if he anticipates. Yeah,
I thought when he said server farms of specialized hardware, I thought to me was ASICs. When he said that, it was chapter 4. Maybe I'm taking it out of context, but that was kind of what I got when he said that was like, oh, he is not predicting, but kind of thinking about that is what would come from it. Kind of not going against your point, but kind of, just kind of showing what was in there. And whenever I hear long tail theory, I always think of Nicholas Taleb. Amiyu, do you have any insight or a good way of talking about long tail end theories or long tail theories?
Yeah, well, so long tail theory is long tail something drawn from statistics, right? So if you've looked at the normal distribution curve, right, without getting into too much detail, most data points are in the middle of a normal distribution, right? But there's outliers in the distribution, which form the tail of the normal distribution curve. So that's what Taleb basically refers to when he talks about the long tail. And he brings it up in the context of the 2008 financial crisis, that all financial modeling that's done excludes outlier events. So events on the long tail, right? It takes events that are, again, don't want to get too technical, that are one standard deviation or two standard deviations away from the mean. And that ignores events that occur very, very infrequently, but when they do occur, because they haven't been modeled, it just wrecks the whole system, which is what basically happened in 2008. So basically, whenever you talk about a long tail event, is a very infrequently occurring event is what it is.
Okay.
So for example, a very severe hurricane would be a long tail event. A normal storm that you get once every year is not a long tail event.
Okay. Is there a difference between an outlier long tail and an outlier being in a long tail or being a few standard deviations away than the long tail theory? Because I think the long tail theory might be a little bit different. And I made this graph. I made it up, and I hope I'm fact checked and someone tells me if I'm looking at this wrong. But if I could remember, what he was saying was that if the issue with the 51% attack or the how they framed it was there can be a lot of zombies or a lot of, and I assume zombies are bots. So like a bunch of bot computers that can overpower the system. But what he was saying was, and this is where he said, following the long tail theory, was that there would be a lot of small and medium to medium large size farms. There would be more honest nodes. There would be more of them scattered and not like a bunch of them like using a lot of energy, right? So the fact that it was more smaller and medium nodes and there's more of them would overcome the 51% attack. I'm not sure if I'm saying that clearly. If someone can articulate kind of what I'm saying.
Well, I understand it, and I know that I feel certain that was his intention, because I think the intention originally was to have these minds run on individual computers all over the world, rather than to have these big server farms that have developed, even though he could maybe see that coming. And I think that's still the heart of the good uplifting future of Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency world, is to be able to have it run on everybody's phone and wallet instead of to have these huge farms. So I think that's what you're saying, right? That there could be a lot more, like the more smaller miners and nodes that we have all over the world, the stronger the network is. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. I'm saying that, and that like a large farm with a lot of energy can't overcome exactly that. All the smaller nodes that are scattered around. I think that's what he's saying.
It could create a terrifying zombie attack, though. To have a thriller event, and dance in the streets and stuff.
I would love that, actually. So for Halloween, I'm gonna, take it real bit. For Halloween, I was gonna have the James Brown, his outfit in Zaire, and that's what I was gonna do for Halloween, because that show was amazing. If you guys haven't seen the James Brown show in Zaire, that intro is I've never seen a show with that much energy start like that. Anyway, okay, so back to thriller, back to zombies, back to a Book of Satoshi. So this was talking about the double spending, and he was so I was always confused by double spending. I guess who here can talk about what double spending is, and maybe what are their thoughts on double spending and how Bitcoin and proof of work doesn't allow for double spending? Can anyone share?
So it just means that you can't spend your coins twice, and it was a big problem before Bitcoin because the nature of, maybe it's not the best way of putting it, but like the copy kind of paste nature of the internet, like duplication of data, and so I can't explain technically well enough how it solves it, but Bitcoin solves it. And as well, just on 51% attack, as far as I'm aware, like, no, I'm not, maybe Will or someone might be able to chime in as well, but like the 51% attack would only mean that you could double spend your own coins, not someone else's.
Yeah.
So, like you can't, it's not like you can rob everyone's Bitcoin. You can only double spend what you have. And then whilst this is being recognized, the network will be taking steps to prevent it happening again. Like all your same miners, whatever, could be blacklisted, something like that. Yeah, think anyway. I'm not an expert there. The other thing as well, like 51% attack is the other thing it can do is denial of service to certain users that the blocks. How would you describe it? It's a denial of service to nodes that those miners are servicing, and it won't be able to deny them every time, but 51% of the time they try and make a transaction. Is that correct?
I've heard it called the empty block attack. There's an APOMP lecture against I want to call him James Kelly. And he talks about the empty block attack, where 51% of the miners will just keep building empty blocks so no one can do any transactions. And the thing about the 51%, if they collude, they only build on empty blocks. So even though the good guys could make full blocks, they won't extend. The other 51% won't extend. So that's a problem. And they can also essentially say public key 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is a bad guy. We don't like him. We're never gonna put him into a block either, right? So that's another thing you can do with 51% is censor payments from people.
Yeah.
But that can never happen, right?
If you have the majority of the network hashing power, you can mount that attack. The thing that makes it risky is that if you start building an alternate branch, if the good guys ever get longer than you, all your efforts are in vain. None of your empty blocks matter. Everything goes in the trash. So if you ever lose that 51%, so someone says they'll join you, kind of like a Stalin Hitler pack, and then someone goes back and colludes, then as soon as you lose that 51%, all your efforts, all that electricity is in vain, because the good guys built the longest chain and all your efforts are worthless.
And what would happen then, well, hypothetically speaking, if say like Coinbase, say the US got more than 51% of miners into the States, and say Coinbase acquired all the miners, bought out the companies, and then the US government went to Coinbase and said, we want you to 51% the network or you're all going to prison. What would happen? Like, is that something that's, look, I know it's already far-fetched, but like, how would something like that be stopped?
The reason I always hear is that Coinbase is worth $10 billion right now. And that's basically because Bitcoin has value, right? And the miners, the only reward you get for mining is Bitcoin. So you're a non-economic actor if you're seeking to destroy the value of Bitcoin. And you're going to end up with all the ASICs that are worthless as well, right? So all the money you put in is completely lose-lose, right? You're burning money to kill other people's money. So that's the thing. And there's an incentive for anyone else. Maybe there's a bunch of ASICs hidden in Mongolia, Kazakhstan, whatever. They come on, they can get everything, right? So that creates more demand for them. So there's kind of the incentives too in there. That's what I understand is holding back that plot is if you were to 51%, you wipe out the value of Bitcoin. So if you have any incentive in terms of holding equipment or actual coins that you mined, then you're destroying the assets you hold.
Yeah, I suppose it's getting to the stage now as well that like for non-government actor or non-economic actors, whatever, it's nearly like going to be unfeasible for even like the US government to do it, something like that soon. Like even if somehow they could do it, the cost of it would just be insane. Like,
Can we put on our tinfoil hats and maybe say how like maybe China's still in the game? Or I don't know. I'm not saying that. I'm just throwing something crazy out there.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah. Well, I think me and Mio were discussing this there a few weeks ago. We are saying, like, maybe there's some kind of China's banned Bitcoin from their own society more or less totally, and the idea is that they're leaving Bitcoin go out, destroy the US, the West's hold on the world, and then they'll only have their own currency in their own society. I think we touched on that, and then China becomes number one that way, whilst the West is being wrecked by currency crisis caused by Bitcoin trying to fight it. But I don't know, would it play out that way? What do you think, Mio?
Yeah, well, that's how I think about it as well, is that it's not really infeasible to do a 51% attack. And there are estimates out there about how much it would cost. And I think the last I read was single-digit $1 billion, so 8-9 billion. You could mount a 51% attack. Now, what prevents it from happening is that there's no incentive for anybody to do it, right? Who would want to do it? Conceivably a nation state hostile to Bitcoin. And China used to keep coming up. It's not even a feasibility anymore because all the mining's gone out of China. But why didn't they do it while all the mining was still there in China? Just take over all the mines and do a 51% attack. And I think, Jack, when we were discussing it, I think what we were saying is China doesn't necessarily want Bitcoin to fail. They just want their own currency to be used as the global reserve, instead of the US dollar. And so it's almost like they stand to gain if Bitcoin overshadows the US dollar. So there's nothing in it for them to sort of kill Bitcoin. Right?
Yeah. It's just in that kind of scenario, I suppose maybe then the same thing could happen. Like if everyone else is using Bitcoin everywhere, they're going to be kind of imposing a self-inflicted wound because like no one will want the Chinese currency. Right, maybe.
Right.
All right. So chapter 6 was about centralization and peer-to-peer, right? And he uses Napster and Tor. What other examples could we use? Does anyone here use Tor? Anyone buying mushrooms on the internet? Ellen?
I'll say it comes it comes with that Umbrel package. If you go through Morgan's tutorial on how to set up the Raspberry Pi node, that comes with Tor installed on it. So I put that together.
What's the purpose for that?
I think one of the things that I believe is I don't think my router, my like home Wi-Fi, is open to incoming messages, right? There's a difference between having a home Wi-Fi where you can surf the web and go to other sites and get responses back, but you have to explicitly, you have an IP address, right? So you could host a website, but you have to enable something on your router, and I haven't done that, yet my node is still connecting to other nodes. So I think one of the things that that does is just makes it easier to open up both sending and receiving inbound messages.
Like maybe to be
on your
found,
home
or
IP. Just to receive incoming messages, because you're not allowed to receive incoming messages unless you specify, like until you click a site, they can't send that site to you, right? So it's like request response cycle. And so it seems like with Tor that my node is able to connect to others and have them send me messages, and then I can send them back a response so they can initiate instead of.
cool. All right, and then he gets into inflation, touching on exactly what makes, well, touches on deflation and how the value is going to rise, right? That Bitcoin, the issuance of Bitcoin isn't going to increase because more people demand it. It's already planned. And the value will increase because people that hold the money will increase its value just from having it and using it. I mean, he says these points out, again, like all these things that we're hearing from prominent people on YouTube, people that we listen to that are, that we go to for information and listening on conversations on Bitcoin. They're all, they're things that were built on the shoulders of giants, right? So yeah, it still amazes me that these are core concepts from inception and not later on discovered. Yeah, and then chapter 5, chapter 8, Hal Finney comes along, and what was chapter 8 about? Does anyone have the book handy? What did Hal? Go ahead, guys. Sorry. And so just Satoshi was so, I appreciate your question. It was very cordial, I don't know if they were friends, but they were definitely interested in each other's work and helping each other. So did you want to say anything on Hal, Ellen? Jack, what were you going to say? Sorry.
No, I was just going to say focus around transactions, and just Hal is, I'm just looking at it here, it's being addressed just point by point on how transactions work. So that's what it's about.
Yeah, I just think Hal was just he was just he was there. He was like in the room, and he was asking questions that were thoughtful and maybe helped develop the code. He was just something about him. I think he was pretty close into the whole creation of the whole thing.
Yeah, because it has changed significantly since the start. Like, well, maybe significantly is the wrong word, but there has been quite a lot of changes since he launched it. Like, there's one that I find interesting. It was one of the books I read before that I think it was Andres Antonopoulos' Mastering Bitcoin book, and there's something just stuck in the code that can't be changed. It's like a bug, and it's just kind of a quirky thing that it's just, yeah, it's again lamenting the fact that, or maybe not lamenting, but reinforcing that like he's this group of people that maybe Satoshi or just Satoshi, or if it was just one guy or girl or whatever, they are human again. Like, to be honest, that was my main takeaway from the book so far. I said at the start, but just seems like an ordinary guy who's obsessed with this stuff.
Except that it wasn't Hal the neighbor of the Nakamoto guy who's the meme. I think he was the neighbor, or he lived right down the street. So I've always wondered, like, was he and the Satoshi Nakamoto talking about who should we have be the author of this? Because I can't be the author because I don't want anybody to know who I am. You know, like, could they have had this encrypted conversation? He goes, oh, why don't we call it like, this is just me making stuff up. But I do think that the Nakamoto guy whose picture you had earlier was a neighbor of Hal Finney's. You could fact that later, but it's one of the things.
Yeah, if that's true. That's very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's interesting. If I was a friend, though, I'd definitely throw in some inside jokes. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't, I don't know. Maybe they could help themselves. I couldn't help myself. But Jack, what you were saying about kind of you know, things like a quirk in the protocol. I think there was what was the quirk? The quirk was the generate program. So they talked about this in chapter 23, I think, and it was an issue where, of course, I thought about, so there was a quirk that they had to go back and fix, and it was something about, there's something called the generate program, and the program wouldn't run unless it was connected to other nodes, because if it formed a block and it didn't connect to other nodes, then it would just waste that energy mining while everything else propagated later on. And that was one thing that that Satoshi had to fix. I think it was part 23, where there was that. Maybe there's more, but that was another, not a quirk that stuck on, but like something that he had to kind of figure out. Maybe Phil can enlighten us a little bit more on that, but yeah, another I guess flaw, you could say, in the source code. And yeah, James A. Donald. I love this guy. I feel like when I was reading this, he was like a character that I like. He was the one that was skeptical, asking these questions in a more brutish way. I mean, it wasn't brutish, but it was more like, hey, what about this? Or, you know, tell me about, it was like he was asking questions without reading the source code too, right? But like he was smart enough to be in this email list, you know, like it was, that's how I was seeing it. He was like, yeah, like being in a, I don't know, a college discussion group, didn't do the readings, and he's just blabbing out, you know, to the professor what his opinions are. So that's how I thought James A. Donald was. I thought he was great. I don't know. What do you guys think?
Yeah, they were all good questions anyway. What he was like, yeah.
I don't know. He didn't read.
I can't remember specific.
No, I liked him too, and I always think questions like that help clarify, because you get another description besides the one that you were studying, which like broadens your wisdom.
That's true. That's totally true. Yeah. Yeah, there was this term in chapter 11 and 12 called, what is it? Seigniorage. And it's the creation of additional units. Am I pronouncing it correctly? Seigniorage?
Yeah,
Yeah.
or seniorage, maybe. I'm not
Seigniorage.
sure.
Seigniorage. I don't know. I want to start using that term though. I feel like we could start something here, guys. The creation of Bitcoins, the creations of units, we could call them seigniorage of Bitcoins. I don't know.
Yeah. So it's just the profit made by government. I'm just looking here. Profit made by government by issuing currency, especially difference between the face value of coins and their production costs. So well, I don't know. Would gold mine it just gold mining for mining gold coins and minting them? That would be the difference between what the coin's worth and the profit they can make. Would that be correct?
I don't know. So the definition you said there was an entity that mints it that gets value from it. So if there's an entity that gets it, then I don't think that it would, maybe that's why it's not used for Bitcoin.
This is a bit better definition. It's a difference between the value of money and the cost to produce and distribute it. Okay, so for Bitcoin, that's the fees, I suppose, yeah? To the miners, like. I've never heard that term. I suppose if you're in that world, you'd hear it a lot. If you're in like.
But that's what I was thinking. I was like, we should have heard it by now, and we haven't. So why?
Have you ever heard of Mio? Since you're in the bank.
I've heard it. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. I'm gonna pull that card right now, Mio. You're in finance. Can you tell us what this is?
We don't use that term.
I'm pulling that card out of Mio. You got it.
And I was just reading the definition that Jack just read out. You know.
Yeah, I wonder if it's only specifically for governments, because I'm looking at the Investopedia one right now too, just looking at the definition there, but yeah, curious.
Yeah, so between the seigniorage is the difference between face value money such as $10 bill or a quarter coin and the cost to produce it. So in terms of money, the face value of money, I don't know. I'm just thinking if it's actually paper, like it doesn't really have money, but that doesn't stand, obviously.
So that definition sounds like it's the different a delta, right? And
exactly.
So yeah. Okay.
And it could be positive or negative too. So it just depends on the actual, I guess, both the production cost and then the value of it. But I guess you could argue for like Bitcoin miners, if you hold it long enough, your seigniorage is almost always positive because your, I guess, production cost will always be lower than the actual value of the coin.
Yeah. I have a feeling this kind of isn't really a term that's used that much anymore. Maybe more applicable to gold standard kind of token.
Okay.
Anyway, maybe you shouldn't get caught up too long.
Amin says it's the origin is the right of the Lord to mint money. The right of the Lord, Señor, to mint money. So maybe, yeah, it has to be an entity or I don't want to say centralized figure, but that's the only word that comes to mind right now. That's doing that. Okay.
That's probably why we haven't heard of it.
Amiyu referenced Wikipedia. There we go. Cool. And James A. Donald, just asking the questions I would. So what happens to the coin that was lost, that lost the race, right? And like you said, Ellen, Satoshi's such a doll, right? It's a bit harsh, but the guy would probably lose his coins. Like, I'm sorry for the guy, he's how he put that was so nice, so just a deer. And and how he talks about check finalization and credit cards, right? Again, it's just like an irreversibility. Everyone's talking about how Bitcoin is too slow, and he's going here like credit card transactions take days, checks to finalize take a week, right? So just reiterating, what makes Bitcoin the 10 minutes it takes to finalize cash settlements. So, yeah. And his answers pretty much to all of these were proof of work. And unfortunately, I mean, I know what proof of work is, but I feel like it's still a word I need to spend another 20 hours to fully understand when, it just gets thrown around like this. So, what do you guys think?
Yeah, I agree.
I think-
My thing is, sorry, go on.
No, please go, Jack.
Well, I wasn't. Oh no, you go. It was only a. Wasn't. It's only a part. I was just gonna say, like with a lot of this stuff, I understand it well enough to know that it's kind of right in what they're saying, but I don't understand it well enough to always be able to explain it back coherently.
Exactly, is what I was going to say, is that I understand it in, Balaj explained it to me this way, is that the computers did the work, they did the computations, you saw that it was done on every transaction, whereas proof of stake doesn't do that on every transaction, it bundles things. So it was like, it shows that the work was done. But for me, like what I want to accomplish, everything I want to accomplish is to be able to take these concepts and get the explanation down to where it actually communicates and is simple enough. And so like you're saying, I'm not there yet with proof of work, proof of stake. I'm not there yet with nodes or mining. Like, what's the difference between a node and a miner? I still am trying to explain that to people. So I think that that's what we can, one of the values of all these conversations when we're talking about this is when people can explain it in different ways, we can start to distill down the easiest way to explain it to people who are trying to understand this new system. Because we get it, it's like, oh, the sun's shining, but how is it shining? How does that work? I mean, we know that it's working, but people want to understand why.
So have you guys, it's a pretty well-known sort of demo. It's available online. There's this guy called Anders Bronsworth. He's got it's functional software, and he explains, you click around on it, what proof of work is, what a nonce is, all that becomes crystal clear. And maybe at the end of the discussion, if we have time, we can take a look. I will link it. Jack.
Yeah, will you put it in the chat, Amayo? Because I really appreciate that.
Sure.
Thank you.
There you go.
And kind of to what both of you were saying was oh my God, I can't believe I just lost that train of thought. God damn it.
That's what Vietnam will do to you.
Okay, yeah, I got this. So I'm reading Book of Satoshi, right? And Phil's description and context was amazing. And then reading Satoshi, what he was saying, I got it. And to me, I'm not sure if it's because I've put in that 500 hours of Bitcoin, right? Like if I didn't have that foresight and the 500 plus hours of learning about Bitcoin, would it still come as easy, right? Or is the chapter 2 of what Phil wrote? Because Phil really tried to cram in like a crash course on Bitcoin in chapter 2, right? I feel like it's a must in any Bitcoin book. You got to have a few chapters where you just cram it all in there. And he had that. Now, I'm sure everyone here skimmed through it, right? Because we got a good idea. But that was my question too, was like, how how accessible would this be if I only had 7 hours or 15 hours of learning about Bitcoin? Ellen, you're nodding your head.
Well, no, because I think, aren't those the chapters where he was like talking what the hash is, how a hash works, and what an address is? And the first time you hear that, I mean, the first 24 hours you're hearing that, it's, for me, you know, the average person out here, and not a coder, not even good at math. It took me a couple of years to integrate that. And honestly, just reading this book, I got it at a much easier level. It was much easier for me to understand it. I think coders might get it right away, but not the people I'm trying to explain it to.
Yeah, I think sorry, Fabian.
Oh, go ahead, Jack.
I'm just going to say, I think it's most important to understand, well, for getting it across and getting people interested, like, they have to understand the problems of what it's supposed to fix, or like, I don't even like saying that term, Bitcoin fixes this, because there's a lot of stuff. It doesn't actually explain what, well, maybe it does. It's just the problems, like in Jeff Booth's book, that's a great book for outlining serious problems that Bitcoin has the potential to fix in society. And even if you started off reading a book like that, then you can go, oh, okay, this is important. And then everything kind of follows after that. For me anyway, it makes most sense for the way I think.
Yeah. Adding on to that, I think the other thing too is we're getting technical because we have the means and the time, and we're so interested in it, right? And I think, Ellen, Ellen, we want to show people the importance of it, but they don't need to know the plumbing, right?
They don't need to know.
They just need to know this is the toilet, this is why you use it, and this is how you flush it, right?
Yeah, or this is the cell phone, and if you press these numbers, it will work. I mean, and that's basically what I'm telling people. But what happens is their dad or their neighbor, who's the CEO of a company and a multimillionaire, billionaire, says that's a Ponzi scheme. And they start asking me the hard questions. I need to be able to answer them well, down into the plumbing, in order to be validated for telling the people, push these 3 buttons and you'll be fine, But I think mostly once everybody starts using this, then it'll be easier. But there's still so many people to convince. And the people that I really care about convincing are the ones who need to be using it most, or be getting involved most. And they're also the ones who can strengthen that long tail, who can run one Raspberry Pi in their kitchen. Because the more people we can get doing that, the stronger the long tail is. So that's my mission in life right now.
Kelly, are you available? Because I know, Ellen, what you just said, Kelly is also with the same people, right? People in finance who.
Hi,
Kelly.
Yeah. Hi. I have been having that trouble for the last couple of months. I work with 2 wealth management advisors, and they also think it's a Ponzi scheme or a joke, or, they just don't care. I know they're really smart guys, and they just don't want to put it in. So every time I try to say something, they shut it down immediately or have some dumb thing, and I can't just back it up immediately. I have to think about it. Bitcoin has so many different paths to go down.
Just don't give up it. Those guys don't need it. They're already rich. They're comfortable. And what they're doing is working, and they don't care.
And that's that. And yeah, that's the hard part, because I'm like, well, if I want to be in this business in 10 years, I need to know, we need to start implementing this, because there are big voices saying if your advisor doesn't have you in Bitcoin, fire them, you know, and people my age or my future clients are going to hear that and say, well, I'm not going to them.
Well,
So, yeah,
let's just
I
keep
think
sharing.
resonates.
Let's just keep sharing, you know, the materials that we have to educate these people.
Definitely,
The
yeah.
learning channel and the investment channel have some really good things because Chad shows sorry, Chad is he's a CPA and he puts a lot of investment what's the word? A lot of papers and articles that are published by investment firms, financial firms, banks. Bank of America did their kind of internal paper on these things, and that's becoming more and more accessible. So definitely, that's a good resource too. So moving from financial people to libertarians, yeah, Satoshi Nakamoto, definitely not I don't want to say libertarian, maybe because I don't, you know, in my heart, I don't want him to be like a hardcore libertarian, but yeah, he's just, you know, has those ideals, and this is in the whole cyberpunk, you know, emailed list, right? These are older guys that are in cryptography in 2009 that were like, you know, punks in the 80s, right? Were you a punk in the 80s, Ellen?
No,
No?
I'm a flower child.
All right, right on.
I was a flower child in the 70s. I'm an old person.
Right on, right on. And so it was good to see Satoshi kind of say that. Go ahead, Jack. Yep, sorry, Will.
Just to make a point that he said there, like it's very attractive to the libertarian viewpoint if we can explain it properly. It's quite interesting because I don't think it's really that like it's definitely there's huge libertarian following on Bitcoin, but I don't think it's in the traditional sense like the Libertarian Party. Like in America, I think they don't really have anything to do with it for the most part. They're all kind of gold guys or whatever, and maybe they just never want to, you know, kind of like Peter Schiff kind of fellas. They never want to change. Not that I really follow that, but that's, I was listening, it was just, there was on some podcast, there was a guy talking about this recently, that the Libertarian Party in America is going to become totally relevant if they don't like endorse and support Bitcoin soon, because there's so many people that hold those kind of values that get Bitcoin, and that believe in Bitcoin. And since like it is largely, as he said there, it can be very attractive to the libertarian viewpoint, since the party, the main party is supposed to represent those kind of things, doesn't endorse it, then they might just become totally relevant.
Will, do you have a lot of libertarians in Canada or your peers, or do you hear about that concept a lot, or what's it like up north? Sorry, Max. I'm sorry, Max.
To be honest, I don't really follow it like that closely. Nothing I can think of. I think there's, especially right now, obviously, I think it's emerging, kind of a lot of libertarian groups, but yeah, I also feel like I'd be the wrong person to ask here.
I think it's very difficult for a large percentage of the population to be libertarian because it requires maximum personal sovereignty, and that requires a wide swath of education and a wide degree of attention to just the management of your personal sovereignty, your personal wealth, and your personal freedom. And it also requires a tremendously high moral standard for libertarianism to exist. So I think that a lot of Bitcoiners are definitely libertarians, but I don't know that humanity is ready to be libertarian. So I think that the percentage of people who are truly libertarian is very small.
You hit that. You described that very well, because I'm thinking of some Bitcoin Twitter guys who are they're like detaching from Google, right? They're detaching, but these are smart guys. Like they're like, I have to run this program and do this to not use my Android phone, right? Or like these are the guys that are setting up Blockstream, or not Blockstream, but like that satellite dish that relays Bitcoin transactions, right? Like you are on the ball. Like these guys are
It's not
super
realistic
smart.
for someone who's a mom with 3 kids to be able to
Yeah.
do that, a single mom. I mean, we need to have systems that support us as humanity as a whole.
Mhm.
We need smart people like that, but to be entirely libertarian, I mean, that's a tough call. And most people aren't morally clean enough to be able to do it. I mean, it's an evolution that we're going through.
It's wonderful. Wonderful. So it talks about double spend in the real world. Again, touching on that again, very pragmatic. He's just like, if you're gonna buy Bitcoin, wait a few minutes. If you're gonna do an email subscription and you accept a Bitcoin, if it's a bad Bitcoin, just cancel the subscription, right? Takes a very pragmatic, like a small business approach to the problem of what's the word? Bad blocks, or like double spending, or stuff like that. He's like, most websites have a free trial anyway. It was very cool, neat to see that in his writing. Chapter 18, when it first was released, it was a little dense, but it was everything that we know, right? It was dense, but it was succinct and suffice. 120 blocks before spending a new coin that you receive. You can do it online and offline, 21 million, halving times, transaction fees, right? The stuff we breathe and eat in our sleep. I don't know, I said that wrong, but you guys understand what I mean.
So I didn't read all this, so I don't have much of a background, but in chapter 18, what's that bit about 120 blocks before spending coins?
Does anyone want to tackle that?
What I would say about that is, once 120 blocks have been mined, the coins that you've earned are highly, highly secure. So it doesn't mean that you can't spend them, but after 120 blocks have been mined, it's very, very hard to contest the coins that you have. They're your coins. They're solidly. Would you say that's right, Fabian?
Yeah. So I would add to that. So you can't contest it, but if you can't spend the blocks you receive until after 100 confirmations, 100 blocks. So the point of that is I can't mine and then immediately sell the coins, and like to get rid of, like if I did a double spend or something, like, so it keeps me from getting rid of bad coins, right? So that is the purpose of like new minted block coins can't be spent until after 100 transactions. So that,
I see. So new minted, so the stuff that comes out of the Coinbase transaction can't be spent. That makes sense.
right.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. And then chapter 19 talks about, he mentions previous attempts at digital currencies. and there's a whole history on digital currencies. There's DigiCash. I've now they're not there in front of me, but there's a whole history. Oh man, there's a really good graph I could have put on here. Next time, okay. But he talks about how the problems for those were all centralized, right? And you got to head out, Ellen. We'll see you later. And how those were all centralized, and kind of talking about how he was hoping that people would see how this one was different, how Bitcoin was different from all the other ones, and to take it more seriously. I think the tone he had was like, I want people to take this serious, than what everyone else has been proposing. How did you guys feel about that? Talked about.
I didn't quite get there.
Okay.
I was like last 3 chapters I didn't get to, but so
No worries. Yeah.
can I comment on it first?
Then he talks about just the early uses, right? What do you think? What do you guys think the early uses? So he says video games, porn, and high-profile emails. I think those are the low-hanging fruit. What do you guys think? Okay, so let me ask this question, right? Video games and high-profile emails, and using them as to getting rid of spam, right? I think those are good endeavors, but now that Bitcoin is valuable, do we still want to spend it and use it on that? And now that it is valuable, okay, I'll leave it on that. What about that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'd say no, we don't really. Well, I don't anyway. Don't want to spend it on anything.
Exactly.
And this is actually it's called Gresham's. I think it's Gresham's law. It's saying that, like, basically put, it's is it bad money drives the good out of society. So if you have the option of spending 2 kinds of money or even more, you'll spend the one that's worth money. You don't have to, obviously, consciously, you have to understand that it's like saying if you had a gold coin and a copper coin and you were told that they both have the same value, you're going to spend all the copper coins first because you know really the gold coin has more value. And this just kind of, this is exactly like it applies to Bitcoin until there's no fiat left, I think, anyway, if that ever happens. But until then, that's the way I see it anyway. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And I feel like the more and more kind of like self-education I do, and probably anyone does, it kind of changes your time preference around like Bitcoin specifically, but just like your entire way of life. Where I think that's something that I've noticed, and even it's kind of built my conviction longer term. And again, until you're at a point where you're living on like 100% Bitcoin, or even like I guess higher than that, you would already be using fiat debt anyways. But again, it would only be at a point when that's your only currency that you have that you would be willing to spend that. But that's something I go back and forth myself as well, actually, between like living on a full Bitcoin standard or like leveraging like you said, like cheap fiat debt, kind of like Michael Saylor does too. So I think you can look at it both ways like that, right?
Yeah. What was he going to say there? Oh, it's gone. Do you have anything to add, Fabian?
No, just yeah, it's right, trying to stack sats, right? So kind of like how I've been doing is just like budgeting what I have, what I need for like my normal day to day, and then everything goes, to to Bitcoin, right? But I guess it's the opposite. Like, what's the most I can put into Bitcoin, and then how can I live lean, right? And that's actually, it's on the forefront. So that's kind of what I've been doing.
Yeah, it's kind of like I was just gonna say like ads and stuff. They just for stupid stuff, you know, like maybe I think they don't work as well. Well, I don't spend stuff on anything really that's consumers or anything anymore. That's largely because of this, I think, anyway. So that feeds into the time preference thing, what Max is saying.
Is that
I'm sure you all seen. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just gonna mention you've probably all seen the Bitcoin or shit website. Like sometimes I just go on that and you get all the regrets from all the sats you could have bought for like other like numerous like random consumer items.
Yeah, I saw it. That's funny. I think Claire shared that in the group recently.
Oh, nice.
I was going to ask, Jack, have you always been that way, or is it relatively new after you started delving into Bitcoin?
Well, I think I was quite lucky. Like I learned about at 12, I suppose, very young. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad when I was like 15 or something. And so I've always kind of had it in my mind, but now before, definitely did used to buy like, you know, just stuff you didn't need, didn't really want, all that. And now it's like I feel like I don't do any of it now. And maybe it's not, but I think it is kind of totally true, because I know a lot of stuff like ads and stuff, you don't really know they're working on you. And they are working on you because that's how ads work. But if you're not spending money, then I suppose they're not working on you. So yeah, I don't know. But yeah. What about you, Mio?
Yeah, I'm a little bit like that too. You know, I don't really buy too much stuff. No, but you've got to. But it's hard to be that way. You know, you have to check yourselves. It's tempting to go to the store, see something, buy it, never use it. You know, so you got to be a little disciplined to live like that. But that's how I'm naturally wired, you know, so it's not such a big effort, but you know, because everything else is very consumerist, you tend to get a little consumerist too. So it is a little bit of an effort to, you know, so in terms of vice would be too strong a word for it. But I used to have this thing for magazines. You know, I go to a bookstore, I can't stop myself from buying magazines. And magazines there's nothing in the US that's less than, you know, at least $7-8, usually about $10 for a magazine. And half of it is filled with advertising. Mm-hmm. You know, and I used to be reckless about buying magazines, just keep buying Runner's World and Forbes and Fortune and this and that. And you know, so I have to check myself. So that, do you really need that? It's just garbage. You know, you're throwing away $10 on nothing.
How much do you still buy? Any?
What do you subscribe to? What do you subscribe
Nothing.
to? Actually, no?
Nothing. I don't subscribe to any magazines. And if you subscribe, you actually save money. You know, but I used to just buy retail because if you're buying retail, you can buy a different one every time. So. Yeah, so that's one habit that I've completely clamped down on. So magazines was just an example, right? But you go to a store, you see a pair of shoes, you'll be tempted to buy it. And it takes a little bit of discipline to say, no, you know, I don't need another pair of shoes.
Yeah, I saw actually Bitcoin Magazine are doing the physical magazines now. That is something that I would again. So it would
it though? Is it?
I don't know. You see, that feeling to kind of entertain. It's the same kind of thing that just like I watch a lot of this Bitcoin stuff and all this kind of tech stuff as entertainment. It's kind of like rather than being on Netflix or something and doing this kind of stuff.
Have you seen it's the Zine? What's it? Zine, Zine. They're like short booklet like graphic novel stories. Do you guys know what I'm talking about?
Oh, I've heard some about it.
There's a book Bitcoin one. Oh, I'm gonna send it. I'm gonna try to find it and I'll put it in there. But they're like zines. They're like episodic. They're not cartoons. They're zines, and they're related to Bitcoin in some way. Now I sound a little crazy saying that out loud, but yeah, it looks really interesting. That they're available online, but you can order them physical copies too. So.
Cool.
And so towards the end, chapter 21, he announced the Bitcoin white paper to the P2P Foundation. And Phil said that he changed it, like how he presented it. And it started to sound a lot more like a manifesto. Like this, like the root of the problem with conventional currency. And then another paragraph, it's time that we had the same thing for money with e-currency based on cryptographic proof. It was really more, he found more confidence, and kind of, he wanted more to say that was not in that academic, like, hey guys, this is an email listserv of what I have going on. Now it's like, this is what I have and it can work, and this is what I want to do. And that shift is, I don't know, to me that is significant. Because it did read like manifesto with a purpose. Amiyu, if you got the book out, it's 21, and it's like, you know, you could probably read it by the time I'm done finishing this sentence. But it was really interesting. Will, what did you think? Or Max, I'm sorry, Max, I keep on calling you Will.
I didn't get to the last couple chapters there too, so I still have to look into that one as well. Is it more than the quote you got pulled up here?
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll quickly grab it here.
They're just two paragraphs that I thought the introduction sentences were very not powerful. They were just manifesto-ish, very captivating in his language that was not typical of his technical white paper, or even of him stating when he first published the white paper. So and I hope I'm quoting him. But
yeah, I'm quickly reading it right now, actually.
I mean, yeah, it was just a shift, just that shift in tone and in confidence. I thought was very interesting to see.
Yeah, even at the beginning, it's like where he says, give it a try or take a look at the screenshots. It seems like one of the first time he's actually using a call to action, right? Before it was like very informative and just kind of describing it. Just a lot more kind of energy to it.
That was a great word to describe it. It was like his call to action for you to do it. Yeah, for you to check it out.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I love reading everything he puts together. This is so concise and just to the point in everything he says and does, and just his thought process behind everything. I remember one of the articles, or one of the assignments for the course too, I ended up writing a lot about kind of the beginning of Satoshi and then how we vanished at one point. So it was nice, little pressure reading a lot of this too, and a lot more of the more updated message, I guess like more updated messages that weren't in the article that I read previously.
Like, what was an example of one, if you could recall?
Um, it definitely just referenced like a lot more conversations that he had with other people involved.
Okay.
I can't remember what exactly was in the initial article, but it just, this book just references a lot, I guess, like other stakeholders in it too. Whereas I think before it mainly was just talking about like Hal Finney and Gavin, and there's a few more people involved here. But I can't think of it specifically now. was a little while ago when I
no
read that
worries,
article
no worries.
about that.
It was just, if it was at the forefront of your brain. Amelia, you got something to add, Jack? No.
No, I don't think so.
No.
So how many chapters does this book have? It seems
75.
75 chapters.
But they're like
They're
2
like 2
pages a
pages.
chapter. Like,
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah,
and this
except
is,
for the first or second, right?
yeah, right. Yeah, the explanation, like the quick crash course, the obligatory. This is Bitcoin in a paragraph. Yeah. I I think Phil did an awesome job, and he, I mean, I haven't read everything, so I don't know if what he picked was good, but like just reading about it, reading what Satoshi was saying, like it was great to see Phil give context, give like the answers to what he was doing, and it didn't seem like he was cutting the answers short or like starting halfway. It really looked like it was like this is all he said, this paragraph. And what I thought was great about it too is like Satoshi's answering these FUD questions that keep on these topics, and he answers them clearly to me, someone obviously to us who we have 500 plus hours studying this. It answers it clearly and concisely. And then I'm thinking at all the podcasts where I've spent maybe 5 hours like listening on one topic, where Satoshi kind of just explains it in a paragraph, but that makes sense, right? Coming from a guy who created it, who knows all about it, right? I mean, the way to, what's the saying? The way you know that it's like, if you could explain it simply, it's because you know a lot about it, or maybe I'm saying it opposite, something like that, right? You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, pretty much if you can explain to a 5-year-old, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And I think it really shows that he's like taken all these considerations and really like run all the scenarios in his head to be able to build this. And again, him just building the code first to see if it actually works, and then kind of creating his thesis behind that or after that is also just, I guess it really shows this ethos of verify, don't trust, right?
And he said he worked on the code for 1.5 years. So before he even wrote the white paper, he was working on the code for 1.5 years, exactly what you were saying. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what are you guys' overall thoughts? So, I mean, I guess I'll start because my stuff's up here, but I said he was nice, kind of considerate. Maybe I'm biased, obviously, because we're all team Bitcoin, right? Short to the point responses. And kind of like what I brought that up earlier, I'm not sure how easily I would have been able to grasp the short 2-page chapters if I didn't, know what I know now. But what do you guys think overall, Jack and Max?
Yeah, it's it's a good book. I'm enjoying it. It's kind of like it's don't want to say like it's almost like trivia, because that's the wrong word, but like it's a totally different book to like a totally different book to the Bitcoin standard we're in and like that. But it's nice, and it's interesting to discover how it was all done. And I think as well, like often you'd hear people talking about, well, I don't know, is it often, but some of the people on Bitcoin Twitter or whatever, or maybe some of the skeptics even would be worried that like Bitcoin was some kind of, I don't know, something like a CIA project or something, and that once we're all on it, they're going to destroy us all. That kind of talk. And once you're reading a book like this, it's kind of like, no, probably not, unless they're very good, but probably not. They're just, he are just a ordinary guy who's obsessed with coding, understands problems of the financial system and like money, and he's making a solution for it. And it's just one of these things that's just took off. It's kind of like there's another quote saying it's like, once an idea's time has came and it gets out of the box or something, it can't be put back in. And that's probably what's happened here. So, yeah.
He reminds me of. Go ahead, Amiyu.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I didn't read any of it, but I in general like the idea of going to primary sources and finding out what people in the know, people who created the thing, say about it, as opposed to reading somebody's summarization and interpretation of it. So I've always wanted to do that with Bitcoin. Now, I knew that Satoshi Nakamoto had a lot of email traffic with various folks, but I didn't really know where to find all of that. So it's definitely a useful book that collates all the email that Satoshi was sending out and conversing with other people. So I'm definitely interested in reading it.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that this book existed till you guys brought it up last week.
And it's a quick read. I mean, these, I would, to me, it's kind of like those daily Stoic books, but like the once a day, read like a few pages a day. But it really reminded me of, this is silly, but of Christian devotional Bibles, right? It's like every day, like, I don't know if you guys are familiar, it's like every day it's like one chapter on like the Bible, or like, some Christian tenet, right? I don't know. That's just brings me back to my, when I was younger, but that's kind of what it reminded me of. We're reading it, we're plowing through it, but it's definitely, something where you could just pick up and just, open to any page and just read through. So I thought this was really great work by Phil. And so early, he wrote this in 2014. Again, like to have the foresight too of like where this can go, right? I mean, that's crazy too.
Yeah, I just linked there. Alex Gladstein did an article about how like the ideas over, say, I think it started like the 1970s. Like all the different projects and things like Hashcash and all those things that came and failed. He did like, it's very long, it's probably take like an hour to read. I just linked it there. It's called The Quest. I think it's called The Quest for Digital Cash on Bitcoin Magazine, and that's very interesting. So it's not like this thing where it just appeared. Like he used a lot of different concepts and there was a lot of groundwork there, and he just put it together to create something totally new.
Awesome. So what are some, go ahead, sorry.
No, I just said cool about, as a reaction to that link that Baptist sent. Sorry.
Cool. So what are
I had another question. Sorry.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he touches upon this in the book. So the white paper is October 31st, 2008, right? And the Genesis block is Jan 2009. So does he explain why nothing was mined in the intervening 2 months? Because he had the software up and running. And I'm assuming it was just playing around, he'd find bugs, scrap the whole blockchain, reinstall it. So why isn't the Genesis block right immediately after he published the white paper? Because I think all the conversations with Hal Finney installing his software and them playing around with it happened immediately after he published the white paper, or no?
Sure, but I think there might have been something about like the testnet, something like that, Bitcoin testnet. Maybe that was running in that period. I'm not sure. I just think I might have read that somewhere.
Okay.
I don't have a response. I'm sorry.
Maybe ask Phil. What are they doing in November and December?
But I think chapter 3 or chapter 4.
That's a good question.
About it, there is. Okay, you know what? I'm pulling this up right now.
Fabian, when he comes on in 2 weeks, that's a good question to ask.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
2 weeks is coming on.
So
you can ask him that.
So the question was, why the lag? Why the lag between announcement and Genesis block?
Yeah, mining of the Genesis block.
Okay. I'm super interested in the, you start talking about remittances and donations. Again, 2012, 2013. Was this in forums? Was this just normal thinking, just thinking about this stuff? Like, where did that come from? Yeah. What other questions do you guys have? What other questions did maybe Ellen say, or did William propose? Do you guys remember anything that they might have said that?
I'm not sure. We can ask, I don't know. I can't. We can ask them next week anyway, when they come back.
Were they interested in Phil's opinion on his guess as who Satoshi was? What was that?
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
What was it? I'm sorry?
Who does he think Satoshi is?
Yeah.
Because I think Will said it sounds like he doesn't really make any, doesn't really state his opinion on that in the book. But I'm curious if he has any personal guesses at all.
Yeah, and Phil doesn't. He's not on YouTube. He's got like 2 or 3 interviews. I think he worked with Trezos. So like, okay. Yeah, it's a great question, because I don't think for as much as the book has been, on Bitcoin Twitter, he doesn't do many interviews or maybe I'm not looking hard enough, but it would be great to ask this to him. So
I think this book's going to get a whole lot more popular over the years. Like, it's kind of, as you said, it's a neat little book with information. So.
Cool. And I guess something that isn't too serious is the cover. Why did he choose the paintings of the hands cover photo?
I think he explains that in the introduction, does it?
Okay, well, I'm gonna remember that was a question, and I won't put it on here. in case I did read past it or something. So I'll look it up. No, I'm gonna forget. Fuck it.
Put it in there just in case.
I feel like Donald. What was his name? I feel like Donald, right? I'm asking questions because I didn't do the reading, and the answers in the reading. Cool.
And since Phil's a technical person himself, I'd want to ask him, how the whole mechanics around how mines are, blocks are mined, and how you validate transactions, all that gets discussed a lot, right? But what nobody seems to talk about too much is the network aspect of it. How does a block get broadcast to everybody? How does every node, how does the network keep track of how many nodes there are? You know, I haven't read anything. Fabian, you've spent a lot of time reading about Bitcoin and blockchain, right? Have you read anything around how all that happens at a high level? In that, how does the network get managed? How does the network keep track of how many nodes there are? How does a block get broadcast to all the nodes, right?
So I think Max, you would be an appropriate person to talk about this, but I'll just state this and then you can correct me if I'm wrong, Max, but it's the protocols have like gossip networks. So there's a protocol for them to always reach out and kind of just, it's called the gossip, right? But it's really is just like reaching out, broadcasting everywhere, and whoever receives their message gets it and propagates it. So it's not maintaining a network, it's more having the nodes being able to just consistently send and receive. It's not so much laying the network of like channels for roads or anything. Max.
Yeah, I'm not 100% certain about the technical details behind it too, but I'm almost certain like that's how it will work. And the way that Will kind of explain it too is that with the Umbro kind of connecting through the Tor network, you have that constant communication where I also see, for example, where Umbro itself has the ability to track the number of nodes that have been set up and spun up over the last few months too. So I believe it's possible to track that all through that. But again, how that works exactly, I'm also not entirely sure. And also not the most technical, but something I would love to learn as well.
I think it's you can choose to publicly broadcast that your node is being in the network or not. And I think with a lot of nodes, the default is to have private because it makes your transactions more private. I'm really not sure on that now, but I think you can definitely have it totally private without it being tracked at all. Like, but yeah, there actually is a lack of information on this kind of stuff. On not this kind of stuff, on this topic specifically.
It's just not talked about, yeah.
And it's probably not very easy to understand, you know. That's why all the stuff that's easy to understand gets talked about a lot. People can summarize it and keep talking about it incessantly. It's probably slightly technical and abstruse stuff, I'm assuming.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we'll hopefully we'll get a chance to discuss this with him. So for next week, we'll go ahead and I'll write it down, but we'll do chapters 25 through 50. So just another 25, and you know, you'll breeze through these relatively quickly. So awesome, guys. I look forward to the discussion next week. Thanks for coming this week, and we'll see you guys again soon.
Thanks so much for organizing this again.
Thanks, guys.
Have a good week, everyone.
You as well. Bye.